Hello, everyone. Let me get this turned up. Hello, everyone. This is Reverend T, the Mindful Coach. And today on Mind Your Business, my guest is Steve, and his mission is to show people that you can be more of yourself when you go on the journey to heal your heart. Steve is the founder of Raw Attraction Magazine. He has over 3 million downloads in the App Store, so go check it out. The Heart Initiation Academy and the author of Ecstatic Rebirth, the 10 Keys to Unleash Your Power, Purpose, and Pleasure. Steve is an author, podcaster, scriptwriter, journalist, healer, part-time comedian, pro-truth, and pro-love. Free gifts of Steve's magazine, meditations, and more can be found on his website at www.steve.gifts. But you can hear from him right now if you're tuned in, or if you listen later and get some great information on how to unleash your power, purpose, and pleasure. Hi, Steve. Welcome to Mind Your Business. Thank you for being a guest today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here and speak to all your listeners. So let's see where we go with it.
Absolutely. So, what brings you on the show today? How did you get to this place where you're telling people about yourself?
Well, that's a good question because, yeah, 10 years ago, I definitely would have been ready. I'm 39 now. So I started out on my entrepreneurial journey probably quite young. But this business specifically has been about 10 or 11 years old, where I started the magazine back in 2012. And then I published one version of my book in 2015. And now that was with the Heart Initiation Academy as well. And so it's been a journey since 2012, really, what I found my own purpose, because and that's about when I was 28. Before then, I was kind of trying different things, and I think that's kind of what you do in your 20s, and discovering what worked, what didn't work, what was I good at. I always loved writing. I always knew I was going to be a writer since about the age of 15, 16. And so that eventually, due to kind of grace and, technology at that time coming around, where I could start my own magazine for quite a reasonable cost. I think it only cost me $2,000 to start the app at that point, where it's a lot more costly these days. And so invested in that, went full in on doing the magazine. And also I started my own podcast, the Steve Experience podcast, back then as well. And then just showing up to serve people. When I started the magazine, I had to, within the first few months, kind of discover who my audience would be. And I decided on the fact it would be men and women, so that we could have a conversation about what is going on in the dating, relationships, sexuality. I was talking about that in a magazine and that hadn't been done before. Most magazines are just for men, just for women, and so there was this dividing line, and I wanted to be the magazine to really have this conversation between men and women about what was going on out there, and that really helped people. And then essentially the academy, the Heart Initiation Academy, was born out of meeting people on my podcasts, people I went to workshops with around the world, because I was going to different workshops, kind of discovering things about communication. Tantra was also in there, shamanism, just general healing modalities. I was learning the different types of healing modalities over the years, and I was finding all the best people. So in the Heart Initiation Academy, I was essentially being the bridge and inviting people to show their gifts under a structure that I put together through my own research, which became the 10 chapters in my book, which start with self-love and self-care, self-awareness, move through how to heal the past, emotional mastery. Then next part is understanding the inner masculine and feminine, because we all have this within us, and the inner child. And it was just a journey to truth of what the healing path was because essentially I was discovering as an investigative journalist in all of this work as a editor, as a journalist for the magazine, that if you truly want the relationship in your life, the main one, your main intimate relationship, your marriage, your long-term partnership, whatever you call as your main partnership, you have to show up as a healed person, as a vibrant light, as love, as integrity, as honesty, as all of these things. You have to show up for your partner in that way, and if you don't, you can't expect your partner to do so. And so it was essentially that, knowing that as a truth, and then living that out and seeing other people live that out, and kind of it was all born. Why did I start this in 2012? It's mainly because I watched my parents kind of suffer in their divorce for over, about 7 or 8 years while I was a teenager. It was just a long, living together whilst they're divorcing, and just some insane kind of time. I'm not saying it was the worst ever that I've heard. I'm just saying it was psychologically tough for me and my brothers growing up. That's all I need to say about it, really. But it was something I didn't want to replicate in my long-term partnership. So I went out there to really discover on my own what was true for me to create a good partnership with someone, and which I have now, which I'm getting married in about 2 weeks. So
congratulations.
Yeah, and so I've helped other people do that through the magazine and through the Heart Initiation Academy. And so it's really been a journey into my own self, but also just being an investigator and being a journalist. I think we need more journalists in this world at the moment, going into their niches and whatever they need to research, then report on it. And we are, I think, actually, if you use social media in any way or at all, you become a journalist by default. Because you are journaling about things in your life, and if you think about it long enough, then you start journaling about certain topics. It depends who you are, what your personality is. But when we become more aware and conscious about what we want to educate to others, because we're constantly educating others in our posts, in our whatever we talk to people about, then you can start thinking more constructively over what kind of information you want to put out there and what you want to stand for as a person, whether it's food, or whether it's relationships or law, whatever the thing is for you. It could be sports, could be anything. But what is the truth for you in that niche that you're looking into right now? And yeah, I think that might inspire people to think differently about the content they create, if they are a content creator, and you are a content creator if you are posting online. So
yeah, that's a lot of good information you've unpacked in, at least right now, as far as where you got started to actually even helping others understand how to get into their niche. Because I know a lot of times when people are starting out, it's hard for them to really pinpoint what their niche is and what they're really doing. And you said something that struck a chord with me as far as growing up and what you saw. Not necessarily that we have bad childhoods, but we are shaped by those childhoods and by the things that we see within our own confines of our homes. And then that translates as to how we go out into the world. And two people can be brought up in the same exact households and to have two totally different outcomes and backgrounds on it, be bad or good, right? And so what you did is you saw something, not that it was broken or not that it was perfect, but just saw something that you could take and actually grow from and make better in your own personal life moving forward. I think a lot of times we hinder ourselves because we get so stuck in what happened that we couldn't change during those years in the household or whatever we saw, or school, or peers or whatever, that we it's hard for us to move forward. But when we take those things that shape us and we use that as our purpose, because I think that is part of our purpose, truthfully,
Mhm.
what we grow up in, what we see, what we go through, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
helps us to help others. And I believe that's exactly what it is that you're doing. I mean, it's a big feat to start a magazine, and I mean to go out on your own and to do that. What gave you the push to say, hey, I really believe in this magazine and I know that I can do it? Because there's people that are wanting to start things and just feel like that's such a big thing to do, that a whole magazine, but what is it that really pushed you to say, I can do this, and I know that it's something that others can relate to?
Well, a couple of things, but yeah, you need a force that is pushing you to change, and yeah, I picked up on one, and you picked on it with your response. Is that yeah, the watching my parents was sort of traumatic for me, and I wanted to do something about it. But also the other force on me was in 1999 or year 2000. I had to start getting my own first jobs in when I was 15, 16. And I realized even at that age, and sort of 15 to 18, that I really did not want to work for someone else. I wanted to work for myself, and I had to get out of the kind of 9 to 5 thing, or I would go insane.
Hmm.
I knew that I would go mad at some point. So there was this also psychological motivation on that front, because yeah, I would do anything. So I was actively searching for opportunities and desiring to find ways out of not having to work for anyone. And I didn't really have to work for anyone. I did a degree in England, which was media writing degree. So I was studying journalism and fiction writing and script writing and things. But I only had to work 6 months after university, and then I actually won a entrepreneur of the year competition with Men's Health magazine, which gave me a bit of money to quit. Not even that much. It was like $7,000. I mean, it wasn't really enough to quit, but I took the risk
Yeah.
of jumping out enough. It gave me enough leeway for, I could get by for 6 months. And I think my grandfather gave me some money at that point. So maybe my mother as well was helping me out, sort of just tie me so I didn't have to work anymore after that 6 months. So you need to get people around you to buy into your vision, whatever it is, whatever creative project is, and force by that force of will and by the force of grace, you will be given opportunities. I mean, there's so many opportunities now to start your own business online, that there isn't much excuse for not starting one. It's just focusing in on what you want to do, and make it a 10-year plan, because you'll get bored if it's not the right niche for you, if it's not the right brand for you. And that takes thought and time. It's not a rush decision. It might take you 6 months to a year to really narrow down on what the name of your brand is, or the target market you're going for, what kind of content you want to produce. That takes meditation. It takes thought, and rubbing ideas off other people who've perhaps been down the same niche or similar niches, or business people you might want to listen to for a few months, and just to really solidify the idea and then take action, or just take small pieces of action during that time. And if you want to start a magazine, then you really have to choose a subject that you're passionate about. and that you can really have a loving impact on people's lives. It's we do need new types of media, as I've just mentioned. We're all journalists, but we do need new media out there that is more not focused on the masses, because that becomes dumbed down and ridiculous. As you know, in American and Western media is often severely dumbed down and a lot of lies all over the place. Whereas if you niche down to, say, your target market is 10,000 people, and they're into specific type of car, whatever it is, most of those car magazines are already out there. It's probably not a car, but you know, a new popular pastime that's come up or whatever it is, then you have to drill down even deeper, more than someone else has before, and start thinking of new angles to look at things, and then also be a good editor and find the right writers and edit really well, because otherwise, you know, it's lost if you're not a good editor. So you have to know your own self. It really comes down to, like, if you're not good at magazines, don't do magazines, or you're not interested in writing, don't do that. If you're more interested in video, do that. If you're interested in nature, you know, go and create a project in nature. You don't, most people don't want to be online. Like, some people don't really want to be online at all. There's no need to just go online. There's plenty of other opportunities out there. It's just a matter of, like, thinking of what you want to do and being guided by your own soul. If you're truly fed up with the career that you're on, or the path that might be laying out for you if you don't change, then use that as fuel for motivation to look for what you should be doing. Journal down in a pen and paper of the things you want to be doing, the things that you actually love, and then start projects from that point. So yeah, I would take it step by step, but there's quite a lot of ideas that I've given there.
Yeah. Well, I know your mission is to show people that they can be more of themselves when they go on the journey to heal their heart. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about for a second. When you were talking, I just was thinking about all the people that are like robots in the world, that get up, go to work, take care of what needs to be taken care of, come home, sit down, same routine every single day, and are fed up and tired of that same old routine, but just don't know how to break away from that. You said something that's very important, and I don't think a lot of people take the time to do, and that's journal. You don't have to be a journalist to journal, like you said. If your thoughts populate in your head, write them down, and then you can bring those together. But a lot of times what I hear people say is, I just don't have the time. Why do you think that is? Because I feel like in your mission to show people being more of themselves when they heal their heart, I feel like the time they feel like they don't have is because they wrap themselves up in doing all this busy work that they can't really focus on themselves. What would you say to that?
Well, oftentimes it comes back to the first chapter of my book, and what many aware people talk about self-awareness, but it comes down to self-love and self-care.
Yes.
Because if you're choosing things that aren't particularly good for you on any level, whether it's a career, you know, medications, fair friends, you know, whatever it is, drugs, alcohol, foods that aren't good, or you're simply not choosing to exercise, or all of these lists of things, if you're not choosing to do them, then it's virtually sure that you're not going to step out of the door of the office and say, I'm not coming back tomorrow because I'm starting my own business, because none of the other things are even in order whatsoever. And so, I mean, if you're in that situation, then you have to come back to remembering, and I use the phrase, love I am, because it reminds yourself that at your core essence, you are a loving being, and therefore you take care of yourself. And so you start having to make decisions on a daily basis that are more productive to living a healthier life. And once you've done that for, at least probably a month, so you've got it in a habitual way. I think they say 21 days, but let's just say a month. Once you got that in order for a month and you've got that laid down, and you've got the friends around you who are supporting you to do that, or the network around you to support you to do that, at that point you'll be able to say, okay, I'm going to set up a plan that's based on something that's feasible in reality. Say it's 3 months, 6 months to get out of the job that I'm in. I'm going to, one, think of what I actually want to do, spend some time on that. Two, get the finances in order so that I can take, hopefully, say, I would probably recommend 6 to 12 months. You got 6 months at least, preferably a little bit more, just to set up the business and start making your income from that, whether it's a new client or whatever it is. You've got some way of feasibly making money within a couple of months. And that point, you put in your resignation because you planned it all out. But the first steps is you've got to go back to the daily rituals, and it's never going to change. It doesn't matter if you're 10 years down the path and you've got a successful business, or you're at day -1 and you're just before the countdown. Like, you gonna have to get that in order every single one of those days over the next rest of your life. So it's better to get it in order today or tomorrow if you can. So that's what I recommend now.
Yeah, I know. I saw this thing where it was talking about someone was thinking about going to school, and in 4 years they'd be 32. And then so they were thinking, if I go to school now, by the time I get out, I'll be 32. Yeah, but if you don't go to school in 4 years, you'll still be 4 years older. And I think that's one of the things that really drove me when I decided to go back to school and get my degree as well. I waited and waited, and every year that went by, I kept thinking to myself, you could have had this taken care of. Just think, if you would have done this then, you could have been on and doing your doctorate by now. But now you're going to, and now that I look back, it's been 2 years now that I've actually graduated, but it just took forever for me to get out of my head. And I think a lot of times we're in our own head. We don't have the right influences around us. Like you said, we have to surround ourselves around those type of people that not necessarily that we want to be there, but we want to be in an environment like that is exuding good energy, and it's creating and bringing in joy instead of taking away, And so once, like you said, you get out of that space and you start to make a plan and you set those things up, it's easier for you to do. But before you can do that, you do have to know who you are. And a lot of times people would say, well, I know who I am. I know exactly who I am. But 9 times out of 10, you really don't feel assured of who you are and feel proud of who you are because of sometimes the space that we're in. How do you get people from point A to point B in moving out of their own way to becoming who they are?
Well, on top of the self-love, it's really about going through the chapters in my book. And the next one is healing the past. And you have to realize that, the universe wants you to get out of some of these traumas that have been laden on your mind, body, soul during your lifetime. And you have to accept that these traumas have happened, and that if you go through a process of healing them, then, which you can, because I've done it and other people I know have done it. They've gone on a healing journey through different modalities to raise their consciousness into a more higher vibration state. When I say that language, I'm kind of getting it from there's a book called Power versus Force that I tend to mention all the time, from a guy called Dr. David Hawkins, and he put together the map of consciousness, and on that map, which if you're watching on video, I can show you what it looks like on a camera because I've got a printout. But
Okay,
it's got a map of consciousness, and so there's a colored map, and at the bottom it starts with shame and pride, and it goes up to pride. So there's shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, and pride in the bottom half. And then once you get above the neutral line, you start moving into courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, unconditional love, peace, and then enlightenment at the top. So these higher vibration states are real. But to do that, you have to go on a journey. And there's another book called Waking the Tiger by Peter Levine, which is also a kind of good book to at least look out, whether you read it or not. It's up to you. But it talks about that animals in the wild, they shake to release their trauma. And as humans, we haven't gone through this sort of shaking process, literally and metaphorically, to shake off our wounds from our childhood, from the culture that has been a poison culture for a millennia or more, and from our DNA history. You know, my DNA was my great grandfather was in the Battle of the Somme, which was 1 million people lost their lives in that. He fortunately survived. My grandfather was in the World War II as a bomber pilot. He's going to have trauma from living through that, and that's in my DNA. And that's a fact that these things are passed down generationally, depending on, you know, your background. We've all got these traumas from wars and other cultural genocides that have happened, and slavery and horrific things have happened. So all of that needs to be cleared out. And now there's different modalities out there which exist. You know, one of my friends, Dr. Doug Lair, he does one called cellular resonance therapy. He's doing a workshop in Prague soon, and also over America, but he's been doing that for 33 years. There's body work out there, which really helps when you get physical body work to clear things out the tissue. There's breath work. I think a lot of even this ice work with the Iceman, Wim Hof. You know, he had to recover from watching his wife commit suicide. That must be hell to go through, and he seems to have done very well there. You know, there's all of these different modalities. You know, there's dozens of them. Some work slightly better than others, but you as a soul have to be called to go on the journey to try some of them out and see what they work, and then perhaps report back to your friends online or offline or whatever you want to do, private or public, and tell people what it was like, because it's a shared experience that's valuable to the whole human experience. When you tell people what you healed, or you know, you felt different in your life because you went on one of these things, whether you go and sit in the dark, which people are doing these days, where they go and sit in dark for like 4 days to shut off themselves off from the mad technology that goes on in the world, and be in peace, and they come out a changed person. These are all essentially rebirth experiences, which my book's called My Ecstatic Rebirth. No, I haven't done every single modality, nor will I ever do every single modality, but I've done the ones that my soul I felt called to go towards, which were shamanic, which were tantric, which were breath work, and also the cellular resonance work and body work. So I've gone through the repertoire of what has worked for me, but I'm me as a soul. You as a soul. Everyone else has their own journey. You might have a similar journey to me. You might have a completely different. That's the beauty of life, that we all have these different journeys to go on. So to get to A to B is a journey. You have to just start going on it and be honest with yourself that you have generational trauma in your DNA. You have child trauma in some respect. We all do. Nobody escaped that, unfortunately. Maybe the next generation will have more luck if we manage to heal ourselves before the next generation is damaged. So it's all important work to go and do some of these things, and eventually there'll be more than enough teachers in every single town, village, city across the world. And I think there's enough at the moment, because it seems to be waves of people coming through. It's like the healers who've done it the last decade or 2 decades or 3 decades in some cases, like Dr. Doug I just mentioned, nearly 40 years. He's helping the next generation come through and the next wave come through. And then if you learn to be a practitioner in his work or someone else's work, then you get to help the next generation coming through, or the next wave of people, because we all tend to be different ages. Some people start a little bit younger, some start a little bit older. It just depends. So yeah, it's about going on a journey and figuring out what it's your healing path as a soul.
Yeah, I believe in all life is just that, a journey. We're here to figure it out and to go through things, to change, to transform, and to become who we are before we transcend. And I believe that, because I believe there is something else beyond where we are. And there's so much more depth to us if we would just dig a little bit deeper. I appreciate you for taking the time to come on. Tell us about how people can work with you, where they can get your book, and how they can listen to your podcast.
Well, yeah, thanks for the opportunity to have me on. And I've got a gift domain called steve.gifts, www.steve.gifts, where if you sign up, you'll get my magazines, meditations, and also there's a free copy of my audio version. The book's actually behind me. If you're watching on video, it's up on the shelf there, where it's a hardback journal. So you can write in it, because it's got certain questions at the end of each chapter which help you kind of gain a bit more self-awareness of where you are on the journey and where you might need to go next. You'll find links I prefer actually that people listen to the audio book first, because then they know that they want the book, rather than me kind of pushing, go and get the book. Well, you can if you want, and there are links. Once you sign up on the email, you'll see links for that. But I prefer to come with gifts first, and if you want to discover the book further, or the Heart Initiation Academy further, then you can go from there. My podcast is called the Steve Experience Podcast, which you'll find online if you just search for it.
All right, Steve. I thank you so much for taking the time out today and coming, sharing your journey with us, and helping people understand that they have the power and the purpose inside of them. They just need to take pleasure in that by knowing themselves. I appreciate what you're doing, and the work that you're putting out there has actually been very enlightening to me as well on my journey, because I feel like every day of my life is a journey, and I try to journal that through the podcast and my mindful shows that I do, and meditations. And so you just help to enlighten me a little bit more on what it is that I need to do. So I appreciate that. Is there anything else you would like to leave with the audience before we get off here today?
No, I just thanks so much for what you're doing. And yeah, people, take care of yourself. It's 6th of April as we record this, but it's, a bit of a mad world out there at the moment with all that's going on with, crazy things in media and politics and all of these things. And so let's take it easy on ourselves. Let's slow things down and get back to our human ways of love and care for ourselves before anything else, and then meet each other on that level. So yeah, take care out there, and self-love to the max.
Amen. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Mindful Intentions Nurture and Drive Your Business. We learned a lot of good information today. Hopefully you were able to be impacted and understand what the power, purpose, and pleasure is in your life. Self-love, heal your heart, and understand that you can do anything if you put your mind to it. Ask yourself, what do you need to shake off? Maybe you might need to go sit in the dark for a couple of days, so then you can walk out into the light. But let's continue on this journey and see where it takes us. And as always, remember, you were created with a purpose. Go be great. God bless you all. Thank you for watching.